Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be reviewing the Panzer III N, of which is a currently 3.0 BR Rank 2 premium vehicle in the German Ground Forces tech tree, and currently costs 1,000 Golden Eagles. In this video, I'll be going over everything that you need to know about it, including its stats, how it plays, I'll go over its strengths and weaknesses, I'll give it some key scores in several key areas, and then I'll give my final recommendation and if I feel that this vehicle is worth purchasing or not. As always, please consider subscribing if you'd like more content like this, but without further ado, let's get into the video. As always, I'll place a stat card here on the side of the screen. Things to note are its reload speed, power to weight ratio, and the presence of smoke grenades. Now with that said, let's get into how it plays. Put succinctly, in some ways, the Panzer III N is kind of like a mini Tiger tank. It's quite heavy, durable, has a mean cannon, and is generally not a tank that you want to fight. Because it has an excellent reload rate and great armor, the Panzer III N can brawl quite well, though it can also be successful at longer ranges, as its heat shells do not lose armor penetration value when shooting from farther distances. But because it can tank fairly well due to its relatively thick and largely spaced armor, the Panzer III N also suffers from some mobility issues, with a 13 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which is low even for this BR. Because of this, the 3N will oftentimes not be a great flanker or scout, and will instead be more of a frontliner, brawler, or even a support tank, depending on if you're in an up tier, a down tier, or if you're somewhere in between. Thankfully, the 3N sees more down tiers than not, and will thus be quite effective in most roles. One major sticking point of this vehicle, however, is that the heat shells, of which will be your primary shell, are quite finicky, and can explode too early, can do limited damage, or if you get a successful pen, will oftentimes just annihilate your tank in one hit. And although using this vehicle as an in-your-face type of tank will result in many kills and a good time. Now with that said, let's get into its strengths and weaknesses, and first for its strengths. Because it has space armor, the Panzer III N is surprisingly survivable, at least in a down tier. Second, while it isn't perfect, the Pz.III heat shell is potent against most enemies that you will face. Third, it has a very fast reload of between 3.3 and 4.3 seconds, depending of course on crew skill. For its fourth strength, in my experience, down tiers are a good amount more common with the 3N than up tiers. Fifth, it has smoke grenade launchers, which are not exactly common at this BR, as well as smoke shells for your cannon. And finally, it features premium RP and SL bonuses. Now with that said, for its weaknesses, though the Pz.III heat shell is powerful, it is still finicky and will oftentimes be either a boom or bust weapon. Further, because it is a heat shell, it will detonate prematurely if it hits any type of object before hitting its target, such as, for example, a fence, tree, or really anything that you could think of. For its second weakness, while the majority of the armor is good on the 3N, it lacks the additional 20mm spaced armor plate on the cannon mantlet that the 3L and 3M variants possess. For its third weakness, it has an absolutely huge commander's cupola, which is a huge weak spot. And fourth, despite being fairly small, the Panzer IIIM is middling in terms of mobility at best, and you need to choose either between better tracks with the Winter Ketten modification and the inclusion of spaced armor, because if you choose Winter Ketten, then you lose your side spaced armor, which is a damn shame. Now with that said, let's get into how I score this vehicle. For armament, I give the Panzer III N a 5.75 out of 10. This is a tough score because, as mentioned before, the 38C heat shell is a home run hitter, but when it fails spectacularly. In the down tiers that are fairly common with this vehicle, it will easily one-shot most enemies, regardless of if you hit them from the front, side, or even the rear. Against more heavily armored vehicles, however, you will have little to no chance to kill them, especially against those vehicles that have spaced armor, which is hugely effective against heat shells. Regardless, the short 75mm on the 3N is starting to lose its teeth at and around this BR, and it shows. If nothing else, at least it still has an excellent reload, meaning that you can just make up for the shots that you just don't kill the enemy with. Now for its mobility, I give it a 4.5 out of 10. While not terrible, the 3N is fairly average, or even just below average in terms of mobility. It only has a 13 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio, which is mediocre at this BR. It means that you will fall behind early in the match when trying to reach certain points on the map. Now for survivability, I give the Panzer III N a 6.75 out of 10. The 3N is a surprisingly tough nut to crack and is often referred to as a mini Tiger tank. With the exception of the gun mantlet, the 3N features a good amount of spaced armor in key areas around the tank, which helps to protect it against a number of threats. Unfortunately, while it makes the 3N extremely effective versus heat shells, the 3N will still be a fairly easy tank to kill versus higher BR vehicles, such as Shermans that have the M61 shell, or even many T-34 variants. Overall though, and especially in down tiers, the Panzer III N is surprisingly bouncy versus incoming fire, especially when angled. Now overall, I give it a 6.25 out of 10. Part of me says that the 3N needs a higher score than that, while part of me says that it deserves a lower score, and that's all because of its finicky cannon. In all, however, the Panzer III N boasts a fairly good and well-rounded package that favors survivability and also packs a punch over mobility. It is a good tank to use in order to play low-tier matches and to have fun, as well as being a good tank to use in order to get used to more advanced German tanks, such as, of course, the Tiger. So with that said, for my recommendation, should you buy the Panzer III N? For me, I'd say it's a pretty easy yes. It's one of the best low BR tanks in Warthunder and only costs 1,000 golden eagles, or about $6.60 USD when not on sale. While it is only rank 2 and will thus only help grind through rank 3, the 3N is still a solid vehicle and is one that can dominate in many of the matches that it's in. Plus, rank 3 for Germany is absolutely huge and features the first Tiger tanks, Panther tanks, and many more excellent vehicles, meaning that the grinding usefulness of the Panzer III N is tremendous, especially considering its low price. So yes, this is a great purchase with, in my opinion, little downside. Now for people like me who already grinded through the majority of the tech tree and no longer need a low tier grinder, I'd say that the 3N is still very much worth it, at least when it's on sale, which is when I purchased it. Regardless, the Panzer III N receives my Tankenstein seal of approval for both its power and armor, and just how damn fun it is to use in-game. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching. Please of course consider liking this video if you liked it and commenting if you want to say something about it. Also, please consider subscribing for more content like this. But either way, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care everyone.